For the sake of marrying Eleanor Vance, I served 5 years in prison for her brother. But upon my release, I was kidnapped by the two of them, taken to a back-alley clinic, subjected to unimaginable torture, and ultimately dumped in the wilderness to die. After my tragic death, they even had the audacity to mock me and flaunt their love in front of my lifeless body, calling me a fool with more money than sense. Only then did I realize that the so-called brother was, in fact, her lover, Percival, and my unwavering love for her had been nothing more than the result of a twisted loyal dog system they had somehow bound to me. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the moment when Eleanor was kneeling before me, begging me to take the fall for her lover, Percival. "Theodore, please, you must help my brother this time. I beg you." Eleanor knelt on the ground, tears streaming down her face, looking as if her heart would break. In my previous life, all it took was Eleanor's plea. "If you're willing to serve 5 years in prison for my brother, I'll marry you when you get out." Like a brain-damaged fool, I had done just that, served a full 5 years. Inside the prison walls, I was brutalized by other inmates, my once gifted hands, my pride and joy, ruined beyond repair. I was supposed to be my parents' greatest achievement. They had spared no expense, sending me to the finest schools. By the age of 18, I had already designed the awe-inspiring aerial bridge, a feat of engineering that had stunned the world. Yet, during those 5 years in prison, I could only watch helplessly as I became a cripple, enduring the bone-deep agony in my hands day and night. "Theodore, I'm begging you. My brother, he's always had a frail constitution, you know that. And my parents, they died of illness when I was just a child. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be where I am today. Theodore, when we first got together, you swore you would treat my brother like your own. Have you forgotten?" I snapped back to reality, my gaze fixed on Eleanor's face. It was undeniably beautiful. Her tears were heart-wrenching. But no one could imagine that beneath that angelic facade lurked the heart of a venomous serpent. "Of course, I'll treat him like my own brother. Don't be afraid. I will certainly help. Just calm down and tell me exactly what happened." I raised my hand, my heart utterly devoid of emotion, and wiped away her tears. At that very moment, I suddenly heard a system voice in my mind. "Warning, warning, detecting host awakening. The loyal dog system is about to be deactivated." In that instant, countless images flooded my mind. It turned out that a decade ago, when Eleanor had deliberately approached me, she had already bound me to the loyal dog system. This system made Eleanor the only woman in my eyes. At her command, I was willing to do anything, even die for her. And Eleanor repeatedly used the loyal dog system to accumulate points. The system indicated that once she reached 100 points, Eleanor could escape her impoverished life and replace me, taking over my achievements and status. Over the years, to earn these points, she had made me do countless foolish things in the name of love. For Eleanor, I had alienated almost all of my parents and friends. Everyone around me had scolded me, calling me a hopeless simp and love-obsessed idiot. My adoptive parents, who loved me deeply, had even threatened to sever ties with me. They said that if I insisted on marrying Eleanor, they would not attend our wedding and would consider their years of raising me a waste. Everything became clear. Eleanor's only desire was to change her fate. All her labels of hard work, excellence, kindness, and diligence were false. She was a complete and utter fraud. The moment I learned the truth, my heart shattered. After all, the things I had done for her over the past decade were still vivid in my memory. I had once risked my life to save her, loving her so deeply. But she was not worthy. Now, I had finally seen the light, awakened from my delusion. Eleanor was unnerved by my stare. Theodore, what's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that?" "I'm scared." She nestled into my arms like a frightened lamb. The system voice sounded again. "Congratulations, host, you have successfully deactivated the loyal dog system." Holding Eleanor in my arms, I gave a sinister smile. She wanted to change her impoverished fate? This disgusting pair of scoundrels was like repulsive maggots. And since they were such revolting creatures, they should be forever hidden from the light of day. I would return everything they had given me, including this loyal dog system. "Don't cry. Tell me, what exactly happened?" I comforted Eleanor gently, while simultaneously turning on the recording function on my phone. "My brother, he killed someone. It was manslaughter. I swear he didn't mean to. Because the man was drunk and tried to assault me. My brother was worried about me, and in the heat of the moment, he grabbed a nearby fruit knife and stabbed him. He truly didn't mean to. Theodore, please help me. You and my brother look 70% alike, and he was wearing gloves at the time, so he didn't leave any fingerprints. I cursed my past foolishness in my mind. This was clearly a setup to send me to prison. Otherwise, why would he have been wearing gloves beforehand? The fact that that disgusting lover looked similar to me was certainly no coincidence either. It must have been the result of plastic surgery. I immediately sent the recording, along with the time and location of the incident, to my friend, Constable Aubrey Finch, who worked at the police station. In my previous life, when I confessed, Aubrey had been in disbelief, repeatedly searching for evidence to prove my innocence. But I had insisted on my guilt, claiming to be the murderer, and thus served 5 years in prison. Aubrey's bewildered words still echoed in my ears. I still remembered him shaking his head at me in disappointment. Theodore, I truly don't believe you would intentionally harm someone. 6 stab wounds. Are you really such a monstrous person? My silence back then had deeply hurt Aubrey, and in the end, he had also cut ties with me. Theodore, if you're willing to serve 5 years in prison for my brother, when you get out. Eleanor finally uttered the same line from my previous life. Your phone is ringing. Answer it first. It's all right, I'm here. Don't be afraid, I said softly. Eleanor answered the phone. What? The police are here? How could they be so fast? Didn't you tell them you were innocent? Conclusive evidence? The gloves were ripped? How could this be? Eleanor collapsed to the ground, covering her mouth and sobbing. I had previously arranged for someone to tamper with Percival's gloves, ensuring that he left his fingerprints on the knife handle. This time, there was no way I would go to prison in his place. I held Eleanor in my arms. It's not that I don't want to help, but it's too late. Percival was screaming hysterically on the other end of the line before the call was abruptly cut off. Theodore, could you find him a good lawyer? My brother's health isn't very good, and he needs someone to look out for him. He can't handle hardship. I smiled. Of course I will. 5 years, at the very least. That was what I owed Percival. As for looking out for him, the suffering I had endured in prison, Percival would naturally have to repay many times over. I hired a seemingly competent lawyer for Percival, but secretly, I paid off the opposing counsel. In the end, the judge sentenced Percival to 5 years in prison. Percival jumped up, cursing and swearing, wishing death upon the person he had stabbed, and constantly shouting Eleanor's name, berating her for not helping him. Eleanor covered her ears in fear. I held her close, and in front of Percival, I kissed Eleanor's forehead, giving him a smug, mocking smile. Percival's eyes were red with jealousy. I had investigated thoroughly. They had no blood relation whatsoever. They had simply lived in the same alley. They had been carrying on their affair under my nose for 10 years, making me bind myself to the loyal dog system, treating me like a fool. Eleanor, Percival, the game has only just begun. As Percival, handcuffed by the police, passed by me, I covered Eleanor's ears and said to him, I intentionally ripped the gloves. Enjoy your prison life. Percival's eyes widened in disbelief, and he disappeared from my sight, still cursing and swearing. Percival suffered from bipolar disorder and had often been violent towards Eleanor or threatened suicide to prevent her from leaving him. That's why, over the years, even though I felt that Eleanor had truly fallen in love with me, she had never dared to act on it. Is my brother really going to serve 5 years? Eleanor asked me, tears streaming down her face. I nodded. Don't worry, I can make sure his life inside isn't any worse than it is on the outside. Eleanor nodded. I'm sorry, then our wedding will have to wait 5 years. Eleanor, Cordelia is returning home today. My mother has arranged for her to have dinner at our house. I won't be able to go shopping with you today, I said, pretending to check my watch. Cordelia Blackwood was my childhood friend. In university, Cordelia, Eleanor, and I were all classmates. Eleanor immediately became alert. Does she still have feelings for you? You mentioned last time that your mother is quite fond of her, isn't that right? I nodded. Eleanor immediately took my hand and pouted. I want to go see your parents too. I pretended to be delighted. All right. On the way, I showed Eleanor some videos of abused animals. Eleanor, I know you love animals the most. It must be heartbreaking to see this, right? Eleanor nodded in agreement. I really don't know what I can do for them. It's just too painful to watch. Seeing her feigned sigh, I immediately pointed out the QR code for the Animal Protection Foundation. What's so difficult about it? This foundation specializes in rescuing all kinds of abused or abandoned animals. You're so kind. You must be eager to donate, right? Eleanor hesitated, and I played my trump card. It seems you don't love animals that much after all. Never mind. It's just that whenever I see these animals, I'm reminded of university, when I always saw you feeding the stray cats and dogs near the school. At that time, Cordelia always said you were just putting on a show for me. Eleanor said guiltily. How could that be? You know, I have the most sympathy for these little animals. So, under my watchful gaze, she reluctantly scanned the code. The amount doesn't matter. It's the thought that counts, I said softly. Seeing that Eleanor was about to donate 800, I said casually. Cordelia didn't donate much either, just a mere 1,800,000. Eleanor was so shocked that she dropped her phone in the car. I picked it up for her and asked with a smile, "What's wrong?" Nothing. So, Eleanor gritted her teeth and donated 1,810,000. Seeing the payment confirmation, I did some mental calculations. This money was far from enough. I wanted her to cough up all the money she had swindled from me over the years. Eleanor leaned against me, and using her well-known tactic said, "I've spent so much money today. How are you going to reward me?" This had always been her usual tactic to trick me into spending money. "Theodore, would that dress look good on me?" "Theodore, how much do you think it would cost to have a duplex villa with a garden and a balcony?" "Theodore, I want to buy my brother a car. You know, it wasn't easy for him to raise me when we were young." "Theodore, look, have I gained weight recently? Maybe I should get a gym membership." In the past, whatever she casually mentioned, I would take it to heart and make it happen. And today, I had forced her to bleed so much. She must be trying to get something back from me. I stroked her hair. "I'll reward you by letting you have dinner with my parents." Surprised? Unexpected. By the way, my mother loves emeralds and my father loves tea. Cordelia has already prepared all of that, so we can go empty-handed, I said deliberately. "How can we do that? We should go buy something too." Eleanor was unwilling to admit defeat. "All right, you pay first. My father recently confiscated my card." Eleanor's smile froze at my words. I took her to buy the most beautiful emerald, claiming it was my mother's favorite style, and then bought some expensive tea. When Eleanor paid, her heart must have been bleeding. The two gifts cost her more than 3 million. After that, she remained silent, looking as if she was fuming. During the family dinner, Cordelia kept my mother company, chatting and laughing, while Eleanor was extremely awkward. I had previously swapped the gifts Cordelia had bought with Eleanor's. When my mother looked at the gifts, she immediately gave Eleanor a disapproving look. It seems that in some people's eyes, I only deserve these fakes. Eleanor's face turned pale. "Aunt, these are genuine." Theodore was with me. The next second, the pearl strap on her carefully chosen fishtail gown snapped, scattering pearls all over the table and floor. My father was too embarrassed to look, and my mother scolded. "Such an uncultured country girl. What a waste of this good food." Eleanor felt deeply humiliated and ran upstairs in tears to change. While changing, she saw the news about my high-profile airport pickup of Cordelia this morning. Cordelia was semi-famous in the entertainment industry. Most celebrities' jewelry was designed by her. Paparazzi, having received news of her return, had been waiting at the airport. I had not only prepared flowers and an expensive gift for Cordelia, but had also embraced her. Eleanor was furious. "You picked her up and prepared flowers and gifts for her. What about me? Cordelia and I are childhood friends. She's returning home. Of course, I have to welcome her. Isn't that natural?" I didn't understand. "But you hugged her. You know she's always been in love with you." Eleanor stamped her foot fiercely. "Yes, I know. But you've never cared about her feelings for me before. Why are you upset today?" Eleanor gritted her teeth. "I care now. We're about to get married." "Married? Didn't you say we would wait until your brother gets out of prison before we get married?" I asked in surprise. Eleanor's face flushed red, then white, then green. Are you really willing to wait?" Eleanor hesitated. They wanted to send me to prison, but Percival ended up being the one. This was clearly unexpected by them. Now that Percival was in prison and unable to scheme, I wanted to see what Eleanor would do on her own. "Of course, I'm willing to wait. It's just that my parents might be a little anxious. As you saw, they really like Cordelia." Eleanor said with a bitter face, "Theodore, I want to discuss with my brother whether we can get married to you sooner. After all, you know, I have no family. He's my only family." She put it so nicely. Only family. In my previous life, under the influence of the loyal dog system, I had been deceived by her time and time again. Little did I know that they were spending my money and even messing around in my car while I was away on business trips. The loyal dog system had shown me every scene of their entanglement. Those two swindlers were utterly disgusting. Eleanor and Percival had no idea that I had already deactivated the loyal dog system, and I had rebound the loyal dog system to Eleanor. I set the activation time of the loyal dog system to 5 years later, the day Percival gets out of prison. All right, I'll go with you, I said gently. 3 days later, I accompanied Eleanor to visit Percival. In my previous life, those two scoundrels had never once come to visit me. While I was suffering in prison, counting the days, they were outside, spending my money, living freely and happily. Eleanor asked me to wait for her a short distance away. I don't know what they talked about, but half an hour later, Eleanor came out crying. Theodore, my brother said he's living a life worse than death inside. Didn't you arrange things? Why are they bullying him so much? I frowned slightly. Impossible. Did he provoke someone again? Also, my brother said you're the reason he's in prison. He said he saw you smiling when he was sentenced. Eleanor clenched her fists. I tilted my head. How is that possible? My brother and I have always had a good relationship. Why would he accuse me as soon as he's in prison? Is he deliberately trying to break us up? But why? He's your brother, not some stranger. Eleanor was stunned. She hadn't expected me to be so quick to grasp the key point. How could that be? You're overthinking it. My brother is of course happy to see us get married. He said, as long as you're willing to pay $8 million in dowry, we can get married first. Eleanor changed her tune. Percival slammed his fist on the glass. I saw the vicious look in his eyes. Eleanor was lying to me. Percival had certainly not agreed to her marrying me. I smiled at Percival, but verbally agreed to Eleanor's request. 8 million? Of course, after all, I love you so much. Eleanor threw herself into my arms, hugging my waist and pouting. I knew you loved me the most. My brother was just worrying for nothing. He kept saying you didn't love me anymore, that you had changed. I was so scared. I closed my eyes. Of course I love you. Eleanor couldn't see how Percival was going mad behind her. He was soon ruthlessly dragged away by the prison guards. It's just that my parents don't approve of our marriage. Your gifting of fakes and the embarrassing incident last time had a big impact on them. I pretended to have a headache. What should we do? Can we still make amends? But we bought genuine items, and we spent so much money. Eleanor's expression was extremely unpleasant. After all, I had almost emptied her little vault. Although she had swindled a lot of money from me over the past decade, she had spent most of it. She only had one villa and a BMW under her name, and Percival had been driving the car before. Maybe we were really scammed. Don't worry, my mother is very easy to please. She really likes a jade Buddha, which will be auctioned at tomorrow night's charity auction. This time, you have to act quickly. Cordelia is determined to get it, I said with a laugh. But I might not have enough money. Eleanor was on the verge of tears. I made a reasonable suggestion. Don't you still have your villa? And the BMW? When we get married, everything I have will be yours. But now, if you're reluctant to spend money, and my parents don't agree to our marriage. Eleanor immediately made up her mind. All right, I'll sell the car and the villa first. I must get the jade Buddha that your mother loves. Eleanor's sole purpose from the beginning was money. To achieve this goal, she had once staged a performance of feeding cats and dogs milk on my usual route, deliberately letting me witness her being bullied to attract my attention. She even had Lee Strong change his name to Percival Vance, claiming that he was her blood brother, who had suffered for half a lifetime to raise her. I sneered inwardly. 8 million in dowry. Unfortunately, Eleanor, not only will you not get a single penny, but you will also receive debts that you will never be able to repay in your lifetime. That is the wedding gift I have for you. Eleanor went off enthusiastically to deal with the villa and the car, to take back what rightfully belonged to me. I had my friend pretend to be a potential buyer and visit Eleanor's house. She was desperate to sell, so I had my friend repeatedly lower the price. Reportedly, Eleanor was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. Finally, my friend bought Eleanor's villa for half the price, and the BMW also didn't fetch much. Naturally, all the money she got from selling the villa and the car went to me. As a token of my gratitude, I gave my friend a bottle of vintage wine. Eleanor got a total of 4 million from selling the villa and the car. I had originally bought that villa for 8 million. It was in a prime location in the city center, very large, and the renovation costs were also very high. I raised a glass to Cordelia. She got the money, for million. Tonight's auction is all up to you. Cordelia laughed. I love tormenting bitches. You don't know how much I hated her in university. A poor, scheming gold digger who badmouthed you constantly, yet you treated her like a treasure. At that time, I really thought you were blind. Luckily, you finally woke up. Cordelia seemed relieved. Everything had been my plan since Cordelia returned home. I deliberately made a high-profile airport pickup, deliberately making Eleanor jealous, creating a sense of crisis. I deliberately swapped the genuine items Eleanor bought with Cordelia's, making Eleanor lose face in front of my parents. Then I induced her to sell her house and car. Luckily, when I called you, you didn't hesitate to come back and help me. Thank you, Cordelia, I said, looking at Cordelia, who told me to be unable to get over you after all these years. Cordelia admitted sheepishly. My heart beat faster. I had had a crush on Cordelia. If it hadn't been for Eleanor deliberately approaching me and setting up a situation where I thought she had saved me, I wouldn't have fallen in love with her at first sight. If she hadn't bound that damned loyal dog system to me, I wouldn't have ended up estranged from everyone and dumped in the wilderness to die. Looking to Cordelia, who was still deeply in love with me, I finally could not contain it anymore. I revealed the truth. They secretly bound me to a loyal dog system, cheating me of my feelings and my money. Cordelia was instantly enlightened. No wonder, back them, no matter what I said, you had no doubt about Eleanor. The memories of 10 years ago flooded back. After falling in love with Eleanor Vance at first sight, I discovered we were attending the same university. She came from a poor background, but she was hardworking, studious, kind, beautiful, and possessed a strong sense of self-respect. Learning about her family's difficult circumstances, I even spent my days working alongside her, accompanying her to the hospital to care for her brother, Percival, who seemed to be in and out of the hospital constantly. I found various ways to support her financially, going to great lengths to help her with his exorbitant medical expenses. I used every holiday and excuse to shower her with expensive gifts. Each time, Eleanor would vehemently refuse, and only after my insistence would she reluctantly accept. Every time I thought we could take our relationship to the next level, she would shake her head and reject me. But I became more and more determined, convinced that she was someone worth fighting for. I shamelessly pursued Eleanor for 6 years, confessing my love countless times. Yet, she always kept me dangling, refusing to accept my feelings. The part-time jobs she initially held were those of a caregiver, convenience store clerk, milk and newspaper delivery person, delivery driver, and KTV waitress. I couldn't bear to see her suffer, so, despite my excellent grades, I even paid her to tutor me and help me with my homework. During those years, whatever she wanted, I would grant her every wish. I always put Eleanor first, prioritizing her above everything else. If she called, I would drop everything and rush to her side. My classmates and friends who knew me called me a love saint on the surface, but behind my back, they mocked me as a love-obsessed fool and a hopeless simp. The most ridiculous part was that she never even gave me the title of boyfriend. It was I who took care of her when she was sick. It was I who enthusiastically helped her solve her problems. It was I who secretly found ways to pay for her brother's medical expenses. It was I who discreetly prepared the things she wanted in advance. Even if she mentioned wanting stinky tofu from the east side of the city at 3 in the morning, I wouldn't hesitate to drive 20 kilometers to queue up and buy it for her. Every year for her birthday, I would go to great lengths to prepare surprises and gifts for her. Each time I was rejected, I thought I would be disappointed. But for some reason, I always felt that I hadn't done enough for her, and that was why I couldn't win her heart. It was as if pursuing her, making her my girlfriend, was a mission I had to complete. I was like a man possessed, as if I would die if I couldn't have Eleanor. I pursued Eleanor for a full 6 years before she finally agreed to be with me. However, whenever I tried to hold her hand, hug her, or kiss her, she would always avoid me, even saying that it was disrespectful to her. At the time, I was heartbroken and utterly confused. It wasn't until I saw through the loyal dog system how Eleanor and Percival were intimately entangled that I realized I was a complete fool. Just thinking about how they must have been laughing at me behind my back while I was kept in the dark made me tremble with rage. Do you know what Eleanor Vance said to me? I tried to tell you at the time, but you wouldn't listen. Cordelia's voice snapped me out of my reverie. I clenched my fists tightly. Now I want to hear it. Cordelia, adopting Eleanor's haughty tone, recited, Cordelia Blackwood, how dare you call me shameless? If I had been born a pampered heiress like you, how could I be shameless? But what does being an heiress matter? You must be deeply in love with Theodore Ashworth, aren't you? But unfortunately, you can only watch helplessly as he's snatched away by a poor woman like me. Do you believe that no matter what I do to him, he will willingly endure it? Theodore Ashworth, the young master of the Ashworth family? He's nothing more than a lapdog at my feet, utterly devoid of dignity. Hearing Cordelia mimic Eleanor's arrogant words, I gritted my teeth in hatred. Cordelia wiped away the tears that fell from my eyes in my grief and fury. She leaned into my embrace. Everything you've lost, I will help you reclaim. Cordelia changed into a beautiful evening gown, and I dropped her off at the auction before going back to pick up Eleanor. Eleanor was also wearing a red evening gown, but her aura was nowhere near Cordelia's. I thought self-deprecatingly that perhaps I really had been blind back then, to think that Eleanor was uncompetitive, kind, and gentle. She was clearly a venomous snake. Theodore, are you sure your mother really likes that jade Buddha? Eleanor asked cautiously. Absolutely, I affirmed. So, as soon as the jade Buddha appeared at the auction, Eleanor immediately rushed to bid. She didn't know the value of the jade Buddha and conservatively bid $200,000. Cordelia and I exchanged glances, and Cordelia directly raised her paddle, $800,000. Seeing Cordelia bidding against her, Eleanor immediately raised her bid, $1 million. Cordelia added again, $2 million. She gave Eleanor a provocative look and sneered, ugly duckling. Eleanor was provoked and immediately went all in. $3 million. Cordelia said lightly, $3,800,000. Eleanor gritted her teeth. She looked at me, then at Cordelia, and hardened her heart. $4 million. This time, Cordelia didn't raise her bid. Eleanor smugly spent $4 million to acquire a jade Buddha worth a few $100,000. After Eleanor paid, Cordelia couldn't help but laugh. $4 million. That's enough for me to buy several jade Buddhas. Eleanor, you really are a sucker. Eleanor was instantly furious. Cordelia Blackwood, you're just sour grapes. I hugged Eleanor's waist and nodded in comfort. I had told my parents the entire plan, and my mother reluctantly agreed to our marriage in front of Eleanor, but forbade us from holding a wedding ceremony. Eleanor wanted to protest, but she didn't dare. She didn't have a penny to her name, and to get her $8 million dowry, she could only swallow her pride and register our marriage. After obtaining the marriage certificate, I went to visit Percival, who had been in prison for half a year. I waved the marriage certificate in front of Percival. We're married. I reckon by the time you get out, we'll have children. Percival was furious. She dared to marry you behind my back. She'd be a fool not to. That's $8 million, you know. Is she supposed to choose you, a jailbird, over me? I sneered. Percival was stunned for a moment. Theodore Ashworth, are you misunderstanding something? Misunderstanding? There's no misunderstanding. Eleanor Vance and you, a bitch with a dog, a match made in heaven. You disgusted me for 10 years. Did you really think I was a fool? Percival was shocked. Impossible. How did you know? I also know about the loyal dog system. I nodded. Then you still married her. You're doing this for revenge. No. How could it be revenge? I genuinely love her. But what are you? I snorted coldly. So that's why everyone in prison looked at me with disdain. Anyone could bully me. You really did deliberately make me go to jail. Enjoy your time. I turned and left. Percival shouted and cursed behind me, his words vile and disgusting. After Eleanor and I got married, she indeed changed her strategy. Every day, she would stare at the $8 million bank book I had given her. She even started to actively hug and kiss me. I would always frown in disgust and push her away. At the same time, Cordelia became my business partner, frequently visiting my company and accompanying me everywhere. Eleanor caught us together 2 or 3 times, and each time, she would throw a huge tantrum, flying into a rage. She accused me of not loving her anymore, of cheating on her. I expressed my annoyance and blurted out, Eleanor, I really think you've changed. Eleanor was unacceptable. I've changed? You're the one who's changed. You used to be so good to me, but now. I started to gaslight her. You used to be like a goddess on high. No matter what I did, you wouldn't even let me kiss you. But now. Eleanor was instantly speechless. Unable to get my love, she desperately tried to spend money, but she couldn't guess the bankbook's password. When I gave Eleanor the bankbook, I told her the password was a very important anniversary for us. If she couldn't guess it, it meant she didn't love me enough. So Eleanor spent every day racking her brains, trying to get the password out of me. When I got annoyed, I would only get angry and accuse her of not loving me. I would only give Eleanor 100,000 in spending money each month, and I never asked her where she spent it. Over the next few years, I openly and secretly dated Cordelia, becoming increasingly blatant in front of Eleanor. Without the loyal dog system, I finally rediscovered the feelings I had once had for Cordelia. I promised Cordelia that after Percival was released from prison, I would follow the plan, end everything with a fake death, and then marry Cordelia under a new identity. Cordelia also promised to trust me and wait for me. Eleanor became increasingly attached to me. She didn't dare mention divorce and begged me to come home and be with her every day. Once, she got angry and ripped Cordelia's necklace. Cordelia demanded compensation, but she couldn't afford it. So I turned around and bought 10 necklaces, giving them to Cordelia in front of Eleanor. Eleanor threw a huge tantrum, trying to give me the cold shoulder. When she realized that I hadn't spoken to her in half a month, treating her like she was invisible, she compromised again, bowing her head and trying to appease me. Theodore, don't be so cold to me. I'm scared. My brother is in prison. You're the only one I have left. But I can't feel your love for me at all now, Eleanor said, hugging me. I coldly pushed her away. Cordelia has her period. I need to go make her some brown sugar water. Theodore Ashworth, are you really trying to drive me crazy? Eleanor screamed. I slowly turned my head. Hasn't it always been like this? You've always been very good to your brother, and I used to be good to Cordelia, and you were never jealous. What's wrong with you? Eleanor hesitated, not daring to mention the words loyal dog system. Missing your brother, are you? He'll be out next week, I said softly. I clearly saw Eleanor shiver. It was obvious that she didn't love Percival. She was afraid of him, constantly controlled by him. Over the years, she had tried her best to play the role of my wife, hoping that I would protect her, love her like before. Unfortunately, her hopes were dashed. For 5 years, I had looked forward to the day Percival would be released from prison. When Percival got out of prison, her nightmare would truly begin. Because the loyal dog system would be activated on the day Percival was released from prison. Whether she was pretending to love me now or truly loved me, once the loyal dog system was activated, she would go mad trying to attract my attention, wanting my love, relentlessly, just like I had been with her. And Percival, with his possessiveness towards Eleanor, would absolutely not be able to tolerate it. Percival would probably go insane, wouldn't he? I closed my eyes, suddenly remembering my own tragic fate in my previous life. In my previous life, after my release from prison, I left the prison alone. I had waited for 5 years, and during those 5 years, neither Eleanor nor Percival had come to visit me. Cordelia, however, came every month. She always looked at my haggard appearance with a sigh, advising me that Eleanor was not a good person, but I didn't believe her. Until I was released from prison, with no one to greet me. Until I returned home and witnessed Percival and Eleanor kissing passionately. I flew into a rage, rushing over and cursing them. They first coaxed me into the house, and then, in the middle of the night, they drugged me, tied me up, and sent me to a back alley clinic. They instructed the doctor at the clinic to remove one of my kidneys. While I was suffering the agony of having my kidney removed, they were still laughing loudly, wantonly insulting me. After that, they took me to a desolate wilderness and poured acid on my body. I rolled on the ground in pain, while they continued to laugh. After my tragic death, they even had the audacity to mock me and flaunt their love in front of my lifeless body, calling me a fool with more money than sense. Opening my eyes, I clenched my jaw, looking at the calendar in front of me. Everything would soon be over. On the day of Percival's release, Eleanor didn't want to pick him up. Your brother is getting out of prison. Haven't you been thinking about him all these years, worrying about how he was doing inside? Let's go pick him up, I said to Eleanor. And no need. He'll come home by himself. Eleanor's eyes darted around, and she trembled. I frowned and reminded her. Where are you telling your brother to go? You already sold the previous villa. Then let him stay in a hotel. Eleanor's face turned pale. Staying in a hotel is so expensive. Let's bring him home. Let him stay with us. We have a spare guest room, after all. You and your brother have such a close relationship, we can't neglect him. Otherwise, he'll definitely blame me for not being good enough to you, I said reasonably. Eleanor, hearing me say this, couldn't refute it and could only reluctantly agree. I drove the most expensive car to pick up Percival. The moment Percival saw me, he raised his fist at me. The second he saw Percival, the loyal dog system on Eleanor was activated. She stood in front of me. Don't you dare hit Theodore. Get out of the way, or I'll hit you too. Have you forgotten after 5 years of not being beaten? Percival growled. Even if you beat me to death, I won't let you touch a single hair on Theodore's head, Eleanor said firmly. Percival was almost choked with rage. I added fuel to the fire. Brother, you just got out of prison. Calm down. Come home and stay with us. I know we had some misunderstandings before, but we can talk it out, right? I have some good news. Eleanor is already pregnant. Soon, you'll have a nephew. Eleanor was stunned for a moment, looking down at her flat stomach. Perhaps remembering the grievances she had suffered over the past few years, her tears fell like broken pearls, but she didn't dare refute me. Percival stared at me intently, forcing himself not to erupt. I drove them home and then went to work. There were surveillance cameras installed in the house. When I got to the office and turned on the monitors, the show had already begun. Percival grabbed Eleanor's hair and dragged her around, cursing. Bitch, you secretly married Theodore Ashworth behind my back, and you even dared to get pregnant with his child. What did you promise me? That you would never take things seriously with Theodore Ashworth. What? Don't tell me you've actually fallen in love with him. Do you think he'll believe you? Fool. He's setting me up to go to jail. He also knows everything about the loyal dog system. He's taking revenge on us. You've been played by him, understand? Eleanor shook her head desperately. Impossible. I don't believe a word you say. I'm already married to him. He can't possibly not love me. Now that Eleanor's loyal dog disease had flared up, she was completely devoted to me and couldn't tolerate Percival saying a single bad word about me. I think you've gone crazy, haven't you? Do you think I'm lying to you? I've sacrificed so much for you. I even went to jail, and you think I would lie to you? I think you've fallen for someone else. What? Is Theodore Ashworth richer and more handsome than me? So you're tired of me, are you? Tired of me, this cripple, are you? The more he spoke, the more agitated he became, slamming Eleanor's head against the wall, making her head bleed. Percival's leg had been injured in a fight in prison, leaving him permanently disabled. The more he spoke, the more aggrieved he felt. The more he felt that Eleanor was looking down on him, and the angrier he became. Yes, I love him. So stop bothering me, get out. You lunatic, I've had enough of you. Get out, Eleanor shouted hysterically. You dare to look down on me, you dare. Percival viciously ripped Eleanor's clothes. I turned off the monitor and went back to work peacefully. When I got home, everything was back to normal. Eleanor sat on the sofa, looking haggard, her hair disheveled. Seeing me return, she stood up uneasily. Theodore, you're back. Where did brother go? I asked casually. He didn't want to stay with us, so he left, Eleanor said softly. I nodded slightly and didn't say anything more. But that night, Eleanor received a call from the police station, saying that Percival had been in a car accident and died on the spot, asking her to claim the body. Eleanor was stunned for a long time, sitting and silently shedding tears. I don't know if she was reluctant to part with Percival, or if she felt she had finally been freed. After Percival's funeral, Eleanor lost several pounds. She revolved around me every day, practically wanting to follow me to work, truly like a loyal dog. 3 months later, Cordelia informed Eleanor that I had encountered a rare, massive mudslide while on a business trip. Upon learning of my death, Eleanor broke down. But what was even more devastating for her was that I had left her not with an inheritance, but with debt. Before registering our marriage, I had already transferred all my assets. All the expenses after our marriage were high-interest loans I had taken out for Eleanor. Those loans, with interest compounding on interest, had already ballooned into an astronomical figure, probably impossible for her to repay in her lifetime. I had long since changed my identity and flown abroad. After Cordelia joined me, we held a grand wedding abroad. And Eleanor, it was said, was working tirelessly every day to pay off her debts, tears streaming down her face as she worked. Even though I was dead, the loyal dog system still made her hopelessly in love with me. 6 months later, Cordelia and I ran into Eleanor, who was sweeping the streets, on the street. She looked at least 10 years older, like a 40 or 50-year-old woman. The moment she saw me, alive and well, Eleanor clearly went mad. She rushed towards me with a knife. The next second, the knife plunged into my body. Theodore, Cordelia cried out in distress. I gritted my teeth. Call the police. The police took Eleanor, who had committed the assault on the spot, away, and an ambulance quickly took me to the hospital. Fortunately, the wound was not deep and didn't hit any vital organs. Eleanor went to jail for intentional assault. 2 years later, Cordelia gave birth to a lively son. Our family was happy and harmonious, and our respective careers were flourishing. And Eleanor, after stabbing me and activating her own loyal dog system, either couldn't accept the fact that I no longer loved her or couldn't bear the torment in prison. She committed suicide. After that, I have never heard of the loyal dog system anymore.